I kept getting targeted Facebook ads for like the those like muscle massage thingies. And I finally got one, and I was like, oh wait, I see what the hype is about. This is kind of great.
It worked, huh?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to this session of the Jim Bregman Invites You To series. Today, we have Nicole Stout, and we'll be introducing Jim and moving along shortly. If you have a question of Nicole or Sensei Bregman en route, put that in the chat window, and we'll ask it, and we'll unmute you if need be. Let me take a moment to introduce Sensei Jim Bregman, who was the USA's first Olympic medalist, a bronze medal, was a bronze medalist at the World Championships in Judo, has been a Pan American and national champion, and the president of the USJA several times. And right now, here is Sensei Bregman.
Well, thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure to have Nicole join our group. I have 2 international medals, a bronze medal at the Olympics and a bronze medal at the World Championships. But I am totally eclipsed by Nicole.
No.
Actually, Nicole, you have 21 international medals. Gold, silver, and bronze. You have 14 national medals, and you have 16 regional medals. So I would say that you are quite an accomplished athlete with a great deal of international experience, and we look forward to having you explain some of your experiences and how you avoid injuries while training in such a intense environment that involves full concentration and care of your own well-being. So,
thank you.
do you have a few comments about any of that?
I am no Olympian, so I still very much revere you and all of our other Olympians. I am not quite there yet. We're trying to make it there, though. That's the goal.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, a lot of my kind of injury prevention stems from both a consistent supplementation of supplements that help curb injury and speed up recovery, like beta-alanine by S-carnitine. And also, before judo, I have a background in, I was an elite gymnast in artistic and rhythmic gymnastics. And I did ballet for like so many years, like at least a decade. So a lot of the things I do to prevent injury are the kind of small muscle exercises that come from ballet and gymnastics, that background, which is kind of unique coming into judo.
That's very, very good. I did gymnastics as a young child also. I also did baton twirling and tap dancing. And the tap dancing actually was very beneficial later in developing some pretty strong ashiwaza. Yeah. What do you do as far as weight training goes? Do you train with weights to build muscle?
Constantly.
Okay.
And I fight big women, so I have to be really strong.
Okay. And what are some of your weight training routines?
So I weightlift every other day. So that normally comes out to either 3 or 4 times a week. And I weightlift for about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So not super, super long. Mostly what I do are Olympic lifts. So I do a lot of clean and jerk. I do, these are called like overhead presses. Mm-hmm. And then lots of bench, incline, front and back squat, low rows. I did these today. I'm like trying to think of what I did today. Mm-hmm. Just like, I try to do everything. I have this really cool app. It's called FitBod, and it's like an AI where you program it what exercises you want to do that covers, and it shows you like what muscles you're covering, so that way I can cover everything. And then it keeps track of well, your weights, how long you exercise, and also like the how much you worked out those muscles, so that way if you're working out like the day after and you just did a PR on bench, it doesn't give you bench again, because it's like, oh well, or anything involving those muscles, because they should be fatigued. So it's really cool. I love it. It's a really good app. I've used it now for the last like year, and it's fantastic.
Do you use an Olympic bar?
Oh yeah.
Olympic.
I use the men's weights. Olympic bar.
The men's Olympic bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, because it's a 45-pound bar.
Right.
So yeah, that's the one I use. Yeah, I lift a lot. My body is made for. I'm like almost all fast twitch muscles, so my cardio struggles, but I can lift a lot of weight really quickly. So that's like my forte.
And how far do you go down on a squat?
I
With
don't
an
let
Olympic bar on your back.
Yeah, I have an Olympic bar on my back, and I try to go parallel because I don't want my knees to go over my toes, because then that starts wearing down on the ligaments in my knees. But then there is no point to me doing a quarter or half squat either. So I want my thigh to be completely parallel. That's the goal. So I have like a mirror where I look and I check and make sure. Okay, and it's not all just like a narcissism thing.
Right. And for those that are training with weights, I think it's very important not to go below 45 degrees when you're doing an Olympic bar squat if you're a judoka. And I think that using the mirror when you're lifting, I find that extremely beneficial. It's not necessarily narcissistic, but it gives you the ability to make sure your body posture is correct.
Right.
So do you find the same thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. I always try to train with like a mirror when I'm lifting, because that mirror substitutes, a personal trainer saying, hey, you went too far, or you need to go farther. Mm-hmm. We can't always afford a personal trainer to just show up and be like, all right, let's go. So you have to do it yourself. So you have to be able to watch and be like, oh, that's too far. I think I'm going parallel, but I'm nowhere near. So I got to go, right. So yeah, it's essential, I think.
What about curls and bicep, tricep development? How do you do that?
Yeah. Dumbbells.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like there's like so many different exercises it makes me do with dumbbells, and I'm very lucky that the home gym I have access to is like got a nice spread of dumbbells. Now I still haven't like gotten super far up dumbbells. There are other people that use them. A lot of the men in our club are like, 70 pounds, but I can't. I think the farthest I've gotten up the chain was like 45. So, I don't need a huge selection, but these hammer, these, I don't remember the name of any of these. I promise I normally do.
Show
and then, when you have them behind your head and you hear.
Right.
So I do a lot of those. Yeah, just like there's just so many. My app just tells me what to do. I just tell it to give me everything.
Okay. And typically, what level of weight do you use when you're doing tricep and bicep development?
So today when I was doing curls, it depends on the reps. I can do, the most I can do in a curl is 45 in one arm. But generally it makes me train 80 to 85% of my max. In terms of rep, so that way when I go to max again, hopefully it's higher. So I'm normally working with like 25 or 30, lots and lots of reps. And then it'll test me for PRs it averages about like once a month for everything.
Mm-hmm. So about how many reps does it recommend you do?
That also cycles, but like today I did 5 sets of 10 on each arm.
5 sets of 10. Okay.
Yeah. So 5 sets of 10 of like 30 pounds. So you're just like 30 and you're just going, okay, 1, 2, and you're counting to 20 because you need to do 10 on each.
Okay. Yeah. And what about with squats? How many squats?
Oh, I do a lot of weight in squats.
What is the weight level and how many reps?
So yesterday, which is why I'm still sore, I did 5 sets, 3 reps at 365.
Whoa.
Yeah, I do a lot of weight. The most annoying part is honestly loading and unloading the bar because I hate carrying like all the 45s because they're very unwieldy to me.
Right, that's weightlifting in itself.
Oh yeah, it's I hate it. I wish I was like super rich so I could have someone just like load and unload it for me, which is like super stupid, but I don't like it.
Right. What are your favorite techniques?
Uchimata, yeah, for sure. It's just really pretty. It's awesome. It feels great when you throw it.
And what methodologies do you use to execute your Uchimata?
So it's fun because I feel like I keep having to almost relearn Uchimata because it's so intricate and there's so many different variations, and I'm very picky in that because of my background in ballet and gymnastics. I'm like, oh, I want it to be perfect technically. Like tell me what I'm doing wrong so I'm doing everything right. So it's, learning that, because normally when you learn, like you can see my feet here, but that's actually a lot harder than it needs to be. So I actually do my Uchimata here because this like tends to lead to dog, kind of like the dog pee position.
Right.
So this keeps your hip closed. Okay. That way you're here.
Okay.
And then another part that I always try to remember is when I enter, it's not just here because then you don't have any like momentum. So the hard part is like a lean. So when you're going in, you have to lean in. So that way you have a kind of spring to go forward that you're not getting with the crossed legs. So it's like a whole process of making sure that your legs are here and then this is tight, which, because Uchimata for me is a very kind of technical throw.
Well, it is. And when you say you want this is tight, can you explain a little bit about your hand motion to make your upper body tight to your opponents?
So I learned that, so a lot of coaches say, look at the watch. Apparently you don't do that. So because this is really hard. Like it's hard to, be strong when your arm is out here. So it's a lot easier if it's close to your body. So generally I am trying to hold them as close as I can. So you're out, you're keeping them out. And then when you want to throw, you collapse in and you're leaning. So this is here. Mm-hmm. So you try to not keep your elbows flared out because that takes away a lot of strength. And then this is just lapel grabbing by the collarbone or a nice high grip without sticking your thumb in the collar. So you want to kind of grab like a meaty part of like the back of the shoulder. And then this is here. And then you're holding it as tight as you can while your legs do the rest of the work. And then the number one thing is not letting your shoulders get turned because that's how you get countered. They do the Uchimata Tsukashi and then I get turned. So I'm not going to do all that work for nothing. So this is super important to kind of keep here and make sure your shoulders are constantly turned towards where you want to throw them.
Okay.
Oh, and then your nose goes to your knee. I got to remember that too, because if your nose, you have to have your nose follow your bottom knee, because then otherwise, for some reason, because of my ballet background, I want to like arch my back, which ruins the throw. So that's a good way to remember to kind of keep everything in place, which is really hard because your body wants to do weird things all the time.
How do you do your osotogari? Is that your next best throw?
So if I'm struggling with a righty, then I'll start doing the kind of cross osoto. But my favorite one is where I hit the close leg and then reach. So it's really quick. It's ding, ding. But it's hard to get it because with right on left, that's a really far leg to reach sometimes. So it's preferred that I do my Uchimatas. Osoto tends to come in when I'm left on left because we're both kind of in that same position and the leg I want Osoto is like so much closer. So then it becomes a battle between either doing Osoto or countering Osoto. and making sure that my Osoda doesn't get countered, because anything I can do, she can do.
Right. What would be some of your maneuvers to enter into your throws? The sticker is one.
I mean, man, I wish I was more creative, but generally I'm either just going into the throws, faking an ouchi so that I can get to the far leg.
Right.
Mostly just trying to mess with the close leg so I can get to the far one.
Okay.
That is like the goal, because if depending on how far I can get that leg to step back, then I can turn them. I mean, the best case scenario, I could turn them lefty when they're a righty, because they're weak in that position, and then I can do whatever I want, basically. Another option is if they're a really square player or they play both sides. That's kind of weirdly uncomfortable for me, even though square is kind of fantastic for Uchimata. But if for whatever reason they're really difficult to throw Uchimata, then I will hit a Kouchi to kind of shove them back. And then hopefully they like stumble a little bit. And then that's the only time generally that I do a like a drop sayo, because that makes for a really good position there. But other than that, nothing crazy, honestly.
Okay. So what happens if you miss your drop seoi?
Oh, turtle. Turtle and prey.
Okay, so drop seoi gets you in a little trouble, right?
I mean, I don't mind groundwork. We do groundwork a lot, thankfully, so it's not a particularly weak point for me. I prefer offensive more than defensive, though, because women are mean. Women are very mean. And most of the time, oh my God. And most of the time, one of the favorite moves is a fake sankaku, where they just bash the back of your head with their knee over and over, which is so fun. So defensive day was not very fun to partake in, but I can do it. It's just not fun. So generally, you don't want to stand back up, certainly, because that opens a whole can of worms.
Yeah. How many international competitions do you go to annually?
I normally try to aim for a minimum of once every other month, at least.
Wow, it's a lot of travel.
Oh yeah, I've gotten really good at it. And the thing is, my flights normally suck, so it's like lot of travel. I've had 18, 24, 28-hour layovers in airports. One of them had for some reason, the airport in Mexico City that I had an 18-hour layover in had no chairs. So I was just and I got there at I think it was 11 p.m. and I had an 18-hour layover, so nothing was open. And there's no water fountains or anything, because that's just a US mandated thing. Right. So it's not like I was just super thirsty, I remember. And I just remember having to sleep on top of my little carry-on. I was afraid people would like take it or something. And it was just a very cold tile floor. That's how I spent 18 hours. Yeah, I'm a pro at traveling at this point. I'm also fantastic at packing. I put everything into one backpack, and that's it. That's all I take.
Okay. Including your judo gi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And my computer, because I have to do school, too.
And your computer. Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this international travel every other month or so?
I mean, that much travel, relatively consistently, probably for the last... I mean, it kind of started 5 years ago, but it's gotten more consistent. And with the exception of like last year, I was competing more and more and more every year.
Okay.
So if I had my way, I would be competing at least once a month for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell us how your life's routine changed in other ways since becoming on the elite athlete circuit? You're an expert at packing.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
You can sleep in airports anywhere.
Oh, basically, I've definitely slept in a lot of airports.
Okay, And what other things have you noticed that have changed your life?
I've gotten to see a lot of countries, which is really cool. So a lot of countries, a lot of cultures. Like when I got to go to the World Championships in Hungary, I got to the Budapest. It was really cool. There's a whole bunch of castles. And so I went hiking with some of my teammates up to a castle, and there was a party at the top, which was really, I didn't expect. It's just ruined castle, which was really interesting. So you get to see really cool things. Some of the big tournaments have camps, like the German one and the French one, and Japanese one.
You attend those camps?
Yeah. Oh, and in South America they have camps. Yeah, and then it's just you get to fight. The women's and the men's camps fight a little differently. The men all like fight each other, and the women are a little bit more kind of in their own groups for some reason. But for the most part, you get to, meet really interesting people. I have a whole team in Poland that are like my besties that I get to see at a lot of tournaments, and I love them to death. And it's really cool because there's no other situation where I'd be best friends with the female Polish team. So yeah, lots of friends. I got really efficient at doing schoolwork abroad because that's a lot harder than you think it is, because I have to attend classes live when I can't do them in person. And that means sometimes a 5 p.m. Eastern class becomes a 2 a.m., Turkey time class. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. And then some places don't have quite the Wi-Fi as others. So I've slowly been able to navigate all of that. So that's been a whole learning curve.
And what university are you going to, and what are you majoring in?
So I go to Harvard University. I am majoring in, it's a bachelor's of liberal arts. It's kind of a really generic bachelor's. I believe Harvard is very bougie, so they don't call anything. They have their own name for everything. So instead of a major, it's a concentration. And my concentration is, again, a really broad one. It's in humanities. Okay. And that's because I really, really love, basically the umbrella term is communications, which I'm going to go and pursue a master's in. Mm-hmm. And mostly my focus is social media analytics and management, and all about how to connect with an audience, get a bigger audience, all that kind of stuff. I love it to death.
Okay, great. So in addition to your academic career, how did you become an elite athlete, and how do others of your generation become elite athletes on this very complicated circuit that you have to do?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of accidentally fell into the right answer, I think. And sometimes that happens. So technically, the route is you have to have national points. So you work up, so you do your local tournaments. You always want to do your local tournaments, because the most important thing is number of matches you can get. The more matches you get in a year, the better you'll be. So do all your local tournaments. Absolutely. All your state tournaments, regional tournaments, even if they're not, points nationally, don't care, do them. That way, by the time nationals rolls around, or some of the other national point tournaments like Dallas and Presidents, you win them because you've been doing matches and working this whole time. Then you have points on the board. Once you have points on the board, you're allowed to compete in opens. And then, and opens are minor tournaments on the circuit that give you points in the IGF. They're the lowest kind of rank point giving tournaments.
And there's all over the world.
Oh, they're all over. Yeah. I would recommend staying on the Western Hemisphere for a while. Although I've gotten to see some really cool places far away. They are really expensive to get to. And those are some long flights. So it's easier if you do. They didn't have it this year. But they'll probably have it next year. They normally have like the South American circuit, which is 3 opens in a row, 3 weekends in a row in South America. And they tend to be Argentina, Chile, and Peru. So those are great to attend. And then once you have you have to win at least one match. And I think once you have a 7th place or higher, then you can qualify to compete in Grand Prix and Grand Slams. Grand Slams, they only take the top 2 people. And then in Grand Prix, they only take the top 4. So I'm lucky that I tend to always be in the top 2. So I have kind of my pick of what I want. But some people are in very, very full divisions and that's constantly changing. Mm-hmm. In terms of getting ready for all of those different levels, even if you are competing at Grand Slams and all of this kind of glamorous stuff, you still want to attend all the local stuff because matches are like the most important thing. And then finding a coach that's really suited to you, because everyone learns differently. My personal learning style is I have to have a coach on my butt all the time, because sometimes motivation is a very difficult thing for me, because I wake up, everything hurts, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this today. But I know that if I don't go to practice, I'm going to say, hey, you know, what happened? Nicole, why weren't you at practice? What happened? So it's nice. I have someone that's, you know, really watching out for me and kind of encourage me to go along. And then I'm very kind of technical driven, and I'm lucky to also have a coach that's very technical driven. So
you're
really
very analytic in
for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if I'm doing something, I want to do it right, because if you do it wrong, you're more likely to get hurt too, which sets you back a whole bunch of time. Mm-hmm. So it's really about kind of what is your learning style, finding the kind of perfect situation for that learning style, and then just throwing yourselves to the wolves as much as you can, so that then you can kind of rise up through the ranks and go through that process. And then playing the point collecting game for 4 years to try to make an Olympic team is what I'm trying to do now. So we'll see. We're working on it. Okay.
And maybe you could explain a little bit about that point game. How do you get points in the Pan Am circuit to get a spot on the Olympic team?
So every tournament that the IJF hosts, that's either a Grand Slam, Grand Prix, or Open, as well as the team ones that you have to qualify for. So like Pan American Championships and the World Championships, or I guess Masters. Those all have the potential to have points. They have a chart, they update a lot, on the IJF that details how many points you can get at each tournament. So some of them, the bigger ones, have participation points. So you weigh in, you get points, basically. It's very little points, but it's like, yeah, you go, points. At the Open, for example, if you win, you get 100 points. Which, you know, is exponentially greater at a Grand Prix. I think maybe it's at a Grand Slam, if you win one match, it's 200 points, for example. So, you know, and then the IGF kind of makes it difficult because they only let you have a certain amount of tournaments on your list that you have points in to be counted in total. So if you have 10,000 Open wins, you know, it's not going to be 10,000 times 100. It's going to be, I think it's 6 slots. So you'll have 600 points, even though you've won 10 Opens, for example. Right. So when you start going through the tournaments, you don't normally worry about that until about when you're about 2 years away from the Olympics and you're in the 3rd year, because points expire after 2 years. And after 1 year, they get halved. So, you know, having nice, but, you know, getting first at a Grand Prix 4 years out from an Olympics is not super. It's not like it's cool, but, you know, it's not like the most beneficial. Right. It won't last you until the Olympics. Right. But it is helpful because then you get seeded. Because the more points you have, the higher you are in the seed. And the way the bracketing works, if you are in the top 8 for a tournament, you tend to get a bye, which is a free win into the next round. Right. And you tend to get the bottom seeds at the bottom, which are easier, although not always, because you get someone that hasn't competed in a long time and they're amazing and they just don't have points. Right. So, you know, it's an interesting point strategy thing that's all dependent on what time of year it is and, you know, the season basically. So are the planets aligned? Do you get a good first match or are you 0-1? So,
Wow.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Very.
Well, Nicole, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I think it's been very, very informative. And I wish you the best in accumulating whatever complex points you need to make the Olympics.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Good luck.
I will be doing my best to strategize what that looks like.
That's good. Okay. Good luck. And don't forget to send me the paper.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Take care. Be safe. Wear a mask.
Always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.